I actually want to be truthful about really loving who I am and really loving where I'm at. And I want people to feel good, that they can share when they feel good just as much as when they feel bad. Because from what I see, it looks like we can share a lot about when things are going hard. But when we feel really, truly aligned in not a fake way, not an ego way, not a material way, it should be something that we're celebrating people sharing. Here we go.
So excited you're here.
I'm so excited. I was like beaming all day. I'm like, I can't wait to hang. I can't wait to do the podcast. You put so much time, energy, and attention into your show. And I just feel so grateful to sit with you, especially from behind the Zoom. We can get super deep, but now that we're behind the microphone, we're just going to go a level deeper.
And you know, before we do that, there's a question that I'm hoping that you can help me work through, something I'm struggling with. And maybe we can do something to get grounded in before the conversation.
Yep.
What do you think?
Sounds great.
Can you lead it?
I'm available. Yeah. Grounding meditation.
Yeah, let's do something to get in here.
That sounds beautiful. So for anyone that's listening just on the airwaves, you know, if you're driving, you can continue to drive, but maybe feel the vibration of our grounding. But it's really beautiful whenever you sit with someone, whether it's in an interview or before a conversation, just to ground in your body and just sync your energies. It can make meetings more productive. It can make hard conversations easier. It really just provides such a better opportunity for you to be successful than just rushing and being in all of this stressful, chaotic energy before you start anything. So let's lead together in just a grounding. And this actually is something I'm really looking forward to. So invitation to shut the eyes. A lot of the sensory input that we get is through the eyes. So having the eyes shut provides us with an opportunity to ground in. And when we do that, we can feel our sit bones connected to the chair beneath us, anchoring us in, holding us. Invitation to deepen the breath in through the nose, all the way into the belly, inside out. 2 more times. And just let the shoulders drop away from the ears as you do that. Deep breath in. Sighing it out. Audible exhale to stimulate the vagus nerve. Deep breath in. And sigh it out. And just shoulders dropping away from the ears. Just feeling the whole body land here. Just turning the gaze inward and just checking in. How are you? It's a really beautiful practice to connect in with your own essence, your own energy, to connect in with your soul. And just softening the belly, just letting the belly be soft. We can hold so much tension here from sucking in. And when we really relax the belly, we can deepen the breath. We can get into the body. And we can allow ourselves to relax. Invitation to unhinge the jaw and just loosen the jaw. Soften the forehead. And a last part, just putting our hand over our heart, one hand over our belly or wherever feels good. Continuing that long and deep breath and just connecting with the physical body. When we spend so much time in the mind, we can forget about the body. But this is where life happens. Taking a deep breath into the belly. Expanding the heart, sighing it out. Deep breath into the belly. Sighing it out. One last one. Deep breath in. Sighing it out. And just giving yourself a few affirmations before we come back in and get started. Maybe you're strong, you're beautiful, you're alive, you're vital, you're creative, you're powerful, whatever it is that you wish someone else would tell you, tell that to yourself now with your hand on your heart. And just coming back whenever you're ready by opening the eyes and maybe just stretching out the body in a way that feels good. As you come back into this space and join us for this beautiful conversation, my intention is to just serve in the best way possible.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. I feel so different.
When I do that occasionally, I want to do it more at the start of some meetings in my workplace where I feel we're going to have to talk about difficult conversations. What's going on in the body as you're saying that? And I'm feeling now I'm dialed into this conversation in a way, 5 minutes I wasn't. What's happening in the body?
Yeah. I want to acknowledge that. And I want to also acknowledge hard conversations at work and what we can do to support. But for most people, they are running on adrenaline and cortisol. So at this point, a lot of our bodies are addicted to stress. It's what keeps us motivated. It's what keeps us productive. It's that hormone that really makes us just run our lives at this really fast level. Most people would admit that they feel burnt out, and it's a lot because people feel addicted to stress. So what's happening in the body is that we have an overproduction of cortisol at the wrong times. We have adrenaline that's going. Our adrenals often get fatigued from producing so much adrenaline because for most of us, we feel like we're running from the tiger, but really we're just answering an email from a boss that's mad at us. So the body is just out of balance and out of whack. So when we take those deep breaths and we stimulate our vagus nerve by making an audible sigh out, we're able to really down-regulate the body to get back in, to regulate the nervous system in a way that can support us in being our most authentic, expressed, regulated self. So I do breath regulation. I do a sync for most of my meetings. I do them for any hard conversation I'm having. I try to do it to myself at least twice a day, because if I don't, then I find myself really in my head, and the energy and current of the day just takes me along a path that I'm not in control of. But when we're in our body and we're regulated and we're grounded, it's so much easier to do what we want to do, to say what we want to say, and be who we are, rather than just having the stress and anxiety run our entire lives.
When talking about stress and anxiety and our nervous system, I created the Connection Cure, which is one of the frameworks I use to help individuals really, what I say, go from surviving to thriving. How to find deep, authentic connection with themselves and then with others. And building this brand, there's a point where I feel that I'm not thriving. And like I'm having a messy time or I'm going through something that's a real struggle. And what I'm concerned with is, how do I lead others when I'm struggling myself? How do I keep authentic, push a model that I deeply believe helps people, but also acknowledge that sometimes I'm struggling too.
Yeah, I can relate, as a coach and someone that works with people one-on-one. A lot of the work that I do it's so important that I'm resourced and that I'm taking care of myself. But that doesn't mean that I'm perfect. I think that's something that I always want to be mindful of when we have leaders or teachers or healers or facilitators or speakers, is that it doesn't mean that we have to live to some ridiculous standard. If you're someone that's teaching about authenticity and vulnerability, that means that's part of your work, to just be authentic and vulnerable about your experience and to use that as a teaching point. But I do believe that if you are someone that is teaching or speaking or healing, it is part of your responsibility of your job to be as resourced as possible, to be as regulated as possible, and to resource yourself first before you do others. So what can often happen is people in, say, my role as a coach, it can be a position that's very attractive for a rescuer type. So a rescuer type is someone that really gets a lot of their value and energy from helping other people. It's a really beautiful person to be, but the shadow side of that is codependency, self-sacrifice, self-abandonment, and you can burn yourself out because you're putting everyone's needs before your own. So someone that has that healer archetype would be attracted to being a coach, attracted to being someone that's a teacher. But then again, they're actually not living in a way that should be an example for other people, because we need to be in balance with the way that we're giving and receiving. So for you in particular, you're such a giver and you're such a man of integrity. I think you're very aware of when you are kind of a little bit off or when you are not feeling completely yourself. And I think what I think is beautiful about the Connection Cure is that the framework stands and works irregardless of your state. You created something that is essentially the guide for people that doesn't need you to be in the perfect mental state to work. It's kind of the guide for people to get to a better place and feel a lot better. So it's beautiful that the way and the creation that you've created still stands no matter how you're feeling about your life. And I think for people to really think about work that they can create in the world that doesn't require them to be perfect, that doesn't require them to be happy all the time, that doesn't require them to not have anxiety or depression, but really allows them to be a full human that's capable of growing and capable of a lot of compassion.
That's so wonderful, because leadership can feel lonely.
Yes.
For sure, right? I mean, you have just the most incredible podcast, the book, and coaching, and you're leading these international beautiful retreats for some of the most fabulous women in the world, and some of the most fabulous places too. But does the world get to see you struggling too? I know you personally, and we've had some fun conversations even about your dating experience. And I wonder, where's the balance in what you show so that you're leading.
Yes.
But at the same time, you're leading while being human.
Yeah. I think this is something I very much think about and I'm very conscious of, and is something that's really hard for me. And it's not because I try and position myself as being perfect or knowing all the answers, but I'd say something that I really struggle with is being held and being supported by other people. So when I talk about the rescuer type, that's a lot me. So I'm someone that loves to be there for other people. I love to be a sounding board. I love to be a coach. I love to listen. I love to hold space. It's my work is listening, holding space, providing people resources and insights, and really sharing my energy. But I really have had in my entire life a really hard time being held and being supported and being seen. So my pattern in my life was to be in narcissistic dynamics with, as a codependent, I'd be with narcissists. I would self-erase. I would self-abandon. And I have to really, really poke at myself to remind myself to be supported, to remind myself to be held, and to remind myself to have relationships or people in my life that can really call me forward and call me out and be like, hey, you're going too fast. Hey, what's going on here? Hey, how are you with this? Because I'm not someone that offers a lot of personal information to people in general. It's not because I'm hiding. It's not because I'm shameful. It's just because there's a part of me that still sometimes believes that people don't care about me or what I have to say, or that they aren't interested in me or what I have to say. So I have to really work with that voice. So that's something that I personally struggle with. But I think I've learned over the years to be mindful about what I share, because people remember everything. When you're a public figure, it's very interesting. I'll say something 5 years ago and someone will tell me about it. They'll be like, you said this one thing, it really impacted me. So it's been beautiful to have that, but it also makes it a little scary because you're like, I want to change my mind. I want to, not think the same way as I did yesterday. So it's something that I really work on, but What's your experience then, I guess, in working with me? Is there a desire for me to share more personal? I'm just curious.
When you have, it has driven our deeper connection.
Yes.
Because at some point, seeing you do all the most amazing and great things, I start to compare.
Yeah.
And I start to see that. But I'm not seeing the oh, you're seeing me come out with a book, but you have no idea what I'm going through to putting this out. It's a pain in the butt. And you would not be living my life at this moment doing that.
Totally.
And so, I think that's helpful too, because going into a lot of things that you're doing have the excitement, but you don't see the other side.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful. And I really recognize that. And there's so many times in my work where I'm like, God, I wish I could tell people about this. And it's hard because, when you're a public figure, then it's like, if I'm talking about, hey, this drama happened at a retreat, people are going to see that and they're going to be like, I don't want to work with someone like that. Right. If I'm talking about how hard it is to write this book, I have publishers that are watching everything that I do. Right. And so it just makes it a little trickier. And it's been something that's been, that it does a little isolating, the way that you have to censor because people are watching. And I wish I could tell people more about the personal struggles that I go through. And I tell people as much as I can, but when you have so many people watching and sort of like monitoring, it does make it hard.
Yeah, there's a balance between, I think, remaining authentic and knowing what to share and what not to share, and then becoming inauthentic.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
And I think when I think about those two examples, it's like, what's the difference between being the perfect example and the fellow journeyer?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, when I think about that too, I also want to be clear that I want to live my experience and be who I am, not because other people want me to be more or less authentic, or they want me to share more or less. Whatever I'm doing has to feel right for me. So whatever I'm sharing, whatever I'm doing is first through my own experience of like, this feels good for me. This feels right for me. This doesn't feel right. And I think people have a desire for me to be more authentic, less authentic, more public, more, less public, and so each person that's in my world probably has a different desire or wish for me. And I have to trust where I'm at in my process with things and where I'm at in my process with sharing or not sharing. But I think over the years, especially with almost 30, like been doing this for 8 years, like I've shared so much deep, intimate details about my life, my marriage, my divorce, my mom, my dad, my suicidal ideation and tendencies, my body issues, my drug use. So it's like, I also, as I get older, kind of want to keep a little bit more, for myself. Because I'm like, I've given you guys so much.
Right. That's so interesting. And, and I remember I asked you a question once about, I had seen a way old social and, you were in a different relationship at that time. And I was wondering, when the content is out there of an older version of you, how do you feel about that?
God, I'm like, I have to do work on this. Like I would say, of the things I'm working on, me being okay with all the information and photos about me from years ago, thinking I knew everything, thinking I had it all figured out, saying silly quote, you know what I mean? Just being like, it's crazy. It's actually some of my hardest work because the cringe level is so bad, and I have to love, honor, and accept myself at that time or in that relationship or whatever, but it's hard.
I know that in the work that I do with organizations, the shame work, it's like, if you step out from your shame, if you tell your story before anyone else can, where's the shame in it? It's, you give it a voice, it releases its grip on us. And I remembered receiving, I think, a newsletter from you at some point, which was, we're celebrating X episode. And it was like you and Lindsay on like the carpet, and it was, the sound was fair. As
huge, horrible.
The production level was what it was when you first started out. But you joked about it.
Yeah.
You put it out there
Mhm.
and said, look how far we've come.
Mhm.
Look at how silly our slippers looked or whatever. And it's like you turned it. You
Mhm.
by making it vulnerable
Mhm.
and exposing and acknowledging, wow, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
I think makes that real.
Yeah, totally. We've done a few episodes where we listened to our early episodes and reacted.
Right.
And it is like, it is so wild. And I cannot believe we are who we are after that, like how bad it is. But I completely agree. When you own the things that you feel shame about, you take all the power away. But as a human on earth, there's still things that I still struggle with owning, like I've struggled with my body for so much of my life. That was something that I really, really just consumed me. And it's been something that I feel really good about now. And I teach women how to love their bodies. But it's really hard still for me to look back and be like, ooh, I was not feeling really good, or I looked inflamed, or I looked unhealthy, and I still have judgment on myself. So just knowing that, like, I'm very much a human in the way that I still have a hard time not having judgment of who I am and sort of where I came from. I don't love all versions of me. I deeply love this version so much. I'm so grateful, but I still struggle for sure.
I think about some of the content that I put out, early stuff, early episodes, and after having more experience,
Yeah.
you learn. And there's a part of me, right, that ego, inner child part of that says, like, take that post down.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
that didn't look great. It wasn't, I could go back and
Mhm.
probably wipe out the first 1/3 of the social and be
Mhm.
like happy about it.
Mhm.
But what's that saying?
Mhm.
Right? Removing that part
Mhm.
removes the story about where I'm at today.
Yes. Mhm. I remember there was one time these girls, they were 14 years old and they interviewed us on this. They had a podcast and they're like, can we have you on your show? We're like, hell yeah. 14-year-olds, like, we support these women. They were amazing. And we were talking about this same sort of thing. They're like, do you get ever embarrassed about the content you share? And the girl said, and I'll never forget it, she's like, that version of you would be so sad to hear you judging her. And just thinking about that version, seeing me now, would be so bummed to know that I was embarrassed of her,
So
ashamed
good.
of her, judging her. And it just gave me such peace, especially to hear that from a 14-year-old girl, like someone that was just so young and so wise, that just expanded me in such a way. So it is a lot my work to release the control and also release this perfectionist idea that I should have known better back then. Because that perfectionism, regret is essentially perfectionism. It's belief that, like, you should have known something that you didn't at that time. And I don't believe that we really need to be perfect all the time, but it is something that I still work to integrate, because I think for me, there's still a part of me that believes deeply that I have to look a certain way to be loved, and I have to be perfect to be loved. So those are always my, like, crux things that I really work on. And that can really look at the past and be like, okay, I wasn't perfect. I didn't look this way. Then I don't deserve to be loved. I have a really great handle on it, but I still sometimes think about it.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is there, all the work you do, is there, do you use a guidepost, a core value, a rule in determining what gets shared on your struggles?
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy for us to show the pictures in Paris and walking down and the beautiful
Mm-hmm.
food and the
Yes.
restaurants. And I mean, following you was
Mm-hmm.
amazing on your most recent
Mm-hmm.
trip, right? But I don't know, maybe there are moments where
Yeah.
your luggage fell down the stairs and it's like, broke it off and you
Yeah.
lost your
I
luggage,
lost my
right? I mean,
luggage.
lost your luggage. What
Yep.
a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And and what you get to show
Yeah.
on the parts that aren't that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what I think about now is what I'm going to show and not show is, does it impact me and who else does it impact? So the things that I'll normally talk about or share only impact me. So the luggage issue, I lost my luggage, or they lost my luggage in Paris. I'm sharing about that because it's silly and it's easy and it's relatable and it only impacts me. So oftentimes if I was to go to Paris and be like, you know what, I'm feeling tired, I actually kind of want to go home, I'm not really having that much fun. I have two best friends that I'm with that are going to see it and be bummed about it. So I always have to be mindful about the people that it's going to impact, and the things that I do. But the way that I filter sharing is, who does it impact? And then what is this saying? And then am I doing it because I feel like people need to relate to me, or am I doing this because it's led by my motivation to share? I want to be mindful that I'm not really someone that's going to always be trying to meet people at their lowest, or going to be feeding off of their energy of like feeling bad for me, feeling pity, feeling, like supporting me. Like I want them to really feel inspired and positive about their lives and about who they are, and focus more on themselves than about giving me their energy because they feel bad for me because I'm going through something. When I go through something, the first person that knows is my therapist. The other people that know are my closest friends. And that's really how I rock. I will share things with my audience if I feel like there's things that are helpful, but I don't really rely on them to be a source of like support for me. But other people could do it differently. I think also I've had to give myself permission to really show my life because it's so beautiful. My life is so beautiful, and it's not beautiful because I have money or friends. It's beautiful because it's unique to me. And I want people to really feel like they can be loved at every stage. So they can even be loved in their bigness, in their brightness, and even having a really beautiful life. Because I think for so many of us, it's like, it didn't feel like it was possible for me to live this good. And it's not because of the other things that I have. It's because I love myself so deeply now. So a lot of what I'm trying to share is really hitting on that.
And not feeling shame about
feeling good.
Feeling good.
For so long, I grew up in Ohio. Like in the Midwest, you relate on negative. In the Midwest, you relate on, you make fun of yourself. Like that is someone's like, I like your shirt. You're like, oh, this piece of trash. I got this like, da-da-da-da. This looks horrible on me. You kind of keep yourself really relatable. Like I didn't know how to take a compliment. I didn't know how to I would make fun of myself. It was the whole thing. And at this point, I'm totally fine with that. I can make fun of myself. That's like my love language. But it's also like, I actually want to be truthful about really loving who I am and really loving where I'm at. And I want people to feel good, that they can share when they feel good just as much as when they feel bad. Because from what I see, it looks like we can share a lot about when things are going hard. But when we feel really, truly aligned, in not a fake way, not an ego way, not a material way, it should be something that we're celebrating people sharing.
From the experience of years of content.
Yeah.
Being able to look back at it, having your guidepost about what to share, what not to share. I was curious, as I embark more on podcasting, writing a book, telling my story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There are young children that are involved in my story.
Yes. Huge.
And I try to think about them in a way of, how do I tell my story, protecting their privacy and being respectful for them while still being able to get the story across. And I was wondering if there's any advice there in how to approach this as I continue to tell stories that are critically important to my message and to my story, but there are other people's stories in there too.
Yeah. And I just honor that so much for you, and your story's so beautiful and so powerful and so needed in the world. And when I think about that situation and my situation in a small way, these questions are questions that we've never really had to figure out in history. We've just had social media come on the scene. We've just had the ability to have a platform where people can connect with you from all over the world and hear your story, and where data and information is saved online. And the internet is just such an integral part of our lives. So all these questions that I have and all these questions that you have, we're part of a generation that's just figuring this out and just seeing what works and what doesn't. So none of us really know. We're kind of making it up as we go. I'm curious for you, what's been your thought process with it so far in how you're thinking about doing this?
I think to your point with so much information out there, originally it was like using initials, but people figure those names out. I mean, it's not as much as the names as recognizing that if one of them was the reader, what would they be hearing? And I try to sort of put my shoes in my children's, my feet in my children's shoes there, thinking about how they may be hearing the message. And so I usually err on the side of, very little, very protective, trying to make sure that the points I'm making about my story are about me and about my experience. And so I think at least being intentional about it, so far, I think it's worked out.
Yeah. And I think you do it from a really processed place. And I think for anyone listening, if you want to share your story, I think it's important. Your story is important. Your experience is important. And also when it's coming from the energy of someone that's processed and integrated in the experience and has forgiven, has let go, has a neutral energy about it, that energy is felt and received so much differently than someone that's writing a story where they're mad, they're angry, they're holding a grudge, they're upset. And once you've fully gone through the actual process is when you can see the truth of the story. And you can say, okay, this was actually my role in this. This is what I see happening. This is where I know I did wrong, or this is where I know that I was off. And it's actually not about the other person at all. The other person is just a supporting character. Essentially, it's just like a part of the experience, but not really the focus. So I think in my journey, there's been times where I've shared about my family, really intimately and privately, and I've had to have conversations with them about it because they weren't happy to hear things that I said. And what I learned was really just making sure that I'm focused on my experience. I'm focused on who I am. I'm focused on being truthful about my role in things, because every you statement could be an I statement. If you're saying, you're a narcissist, I could say, well, I'm a codependent because I'm in this relationship. Or I'm saying, you did this to me. I'm saying, I was withstanding what you did. So I always focus on the I statements instead of the you, and make it more about me and my experience.
I love that. I read in a book, I think it was TED Talks, it said, before you take the stage, make sure you've worked out with yourself. Your own stuff.
I loved that quote you shared with me. I will never forget it.
Right? Before you take on the stage and hope the audience is going to work it out with you.
Yes. And I think that's so important as a speaker or anyone, just making sure it's fully baked and processed in you so you're not looking for the response from others. And that's the thing too, when you're sharing your story, if you're looking for, say I'm talking about my mom and our relationship, if I'm looking for her to reach out to me, her to apologize to me, her to have a clearing conversation with me, something to happen because I did this, then that's not clean. It should be clean where they don't reach out, they don't say anything, nothing happens, and you still feel good. And you're just telling it for the pure expression of you being in truth about what you experienced in an effort to serve not only others, but also serve yourself.
I love that.
I love that.
Final, let me ask you about the book. Because I don't have a copy yet.
I know, no one does.
I know. So can we, what can you tell me?
Okay.
Give me the insight.
Years ago, so when you have any type of following or whatever, they always want you to write a book. They're like, we want you to write a book. And me and Lindsay were just like, we don't really have a book in us right now. We don't really feel comfortable. We're not ready. And then 2 years ago, we had this amazing woman reach out to us and she's like, would you guys be interested in a book? And I just felt ready. I felt like we had lived enough life. I felt like I was a person that could write a book. I felt like I was excited about the opportunity. So we started to write our book. And our book really it's called Almost 30. And it's about the journey in your late 20s to being almost 30 and all the things that you go through. Because in that portal of time, it's such a defining moment in your life. You have your prefrontal cortex is coming online, which basically means that you're processing things consciously for the first time in your life. So you're becoming conscious. So you might want to leave the job. You might want to leave the relationship. You might want to change opinions or perspectives or political parties, who knows, but you're really rethinking all of the patterns and beliefs that you have in your life, which makes for a very chaotic time. What's also happening is there's something called a Saturn return in astrology. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, we'll look up yours.
Okay.
So basically, the Saturn return is when the planet Saturn hits the same point in your natal chart as where you were born. So this means that Saturn, as the taskmaster planet, the very serious planet, is going to make sure that you're living a life that's aligned. So if you're not living aligned, it's going to blow your life up. So for me, that meant I had a sexual assault case at my first job and I had to leave. It meant I went and lived in Patagonia for 2 months. I left my 6-year relationship. I got out of friendships. And I just really had this experience of shifting my life completely because I was living so far out of alignment with myself. And at that time, it was crazy and chaotic and I was not happy at all. But if I would have known that it was normal and it was actually for my greatest good that all this was happening, I would have been set up for more success. So we told stories in it of our late 20s, of our Saturn return period that I've never shared before, that I'm so embarrassed about sharing. We have advice from some of our amazing guests, and we really just break down everything that people would need to know in their late 20s to support themselves in really setting themselves up for a life that they love. Because I am all about people going from lost to a life that they love.
Mm-hmm. From surviving to thriving.
Surviving to thriving, 100%. Because during that time, you can really be in survival mode. I mean, I hit my rock bottom when I was like 26 or 25. I woke up and I had been so anxious that I was thinking about killing myself for weeks. And that was the morning where I was like, I woke up and the anxiety started to loop again. And I was like, yeah, I think it's time. There's no point to what I'm doing. I hated my job. I hated where I was living. I hated myself. I hated my body. I hated my relationships. And I knew I needed to do something. And I was with my best friend who was sitting on the couch with me. And she's like, I've never seen you like this. It's so bad. And at that time, I knew I had to do something. So I quit my job. I left the country for a little bit, but it doesn't need to be so crazy. But I think when we have those rock bottom moments, it's really beautiful because it gives us this like ego dropping opportunity to reset for our lives. And it really gave me this place where I'm like, I can't go any lower. So I might as well try something new. I might as well explore meditation. I might as well explore yoga or these things that I was interested in. And so for anyone that's at the rock bottom period, it really can be the place where you like actually have the soil for your blossoming in this really beautiful way. And I'm just so grateful for that version of me that didn't quit and that didn't end her life because I was so low.
I have a tattoo of a phoenix wing,
Oh,
which reminds me of rising from the fire and the
yes.
ashes.
And that was you. I mean, so powerful, your story and what you've done. I hope people know, if they don't, how powerful and inspiring your story is. It's truly, and in such a short time, it's truly incredible.
I can't thank you enough for coming on today.
Oh my gosh, love it.
You are so wonderful, amazing,
I love you.
incredible.
And we have 2 hours tomorrow.
Yay!
I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much for joining. It means the world. I'm so grateful you're here on the show. And now I'm taking the mic at this point.
Until next time,
Until next
stay
time.
curious, stay courageous, and bravery.
Starts in the heart, baby.
It does.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.